crowning of Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston, and Becky Lynch as Universal, WWE, and Unified Women's Champions respectively at WrestleMania 35 was a rare case of that era WWE dealing exclusively in happy endings, and some of the facts behind an extremely memorable show weren't as glamorous or glossy as the fiction. So with that in mind, I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 fascinating WWE facts about WrestleMania 35. Number 10, the main event finish. Starting at the very end. WrestleMania 35's glorious climax was infamously fudged when Becky Lynch defeated Ronda Rousey with a loose roll-up, long before the historic Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship match felt close to the conclusion. The baddest woman on the planet cleared up the confusion on and discussed the botched finish during an appearance on the Kurt Angle show, noting exactly how things fell apart. Here's what she said: "I didn't think my shoulder was down. I was trying to flatten out to put my shoulder more down. I thought it was just the very tops of my shoulders, so I was trying to shimmy down so the actual back of my shoulders was down. And I didn't know that he had already started counting, so I'm worried that my shoulder came up during the shimmy. So I was trying to help, but it ended up being awesome because now I have a gripe to revisit. That wasn't on purpose, I apologized about that one. It wasn't until later that I was like, oh, F word, my bad." Various bits of hubbub have suggested that Charlotte Flair was supposed to tap to preserve the Rousey-Lynch rematch, but it did not matter. That singles match ultimately never materialized, because WWE. Number 9, the Hardy Boys music played continuously for nearly 5 minutes, specifically 4 minutes and 29 seconds, but rounding up feels justified for anybody that sat through it in person that night. It's a beloved theme harking back to various beloved times for multiple generations of fans, and still generates a pop in AEW, in spite of the fact that people know they'll have to watch a Hardy Boys match when it fades out. But 4.5 minutes was cruel and unusual punishments for the New Jersey crowd, not least because they were only working the pre-show Andre the Giant Battle Royal. If the time doesn't seem that excessive, compare it to that of main eventers Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch, who left their locker rooms and or helicopters and made it down there in 3, 4, and 1.5 minutes respectively. Unsurprisingly, only Triple H's 5-minute disaster piece of an arrival gobbled up more time. The game was presented as surviving a Mad Max Fury Road style truck chase before finally hitting the ring for a match against Batista. He took over 5 minutes to make it, before taking 5 times that amount of time to defeat the animal. And while we're on the subject of Triple H, I want to know what's your favorite Triple H WrestleMania match. Let me know in the comment section down below, baby. Number 8, the strange saga of the Undertaker WrestleMania absence. As partially documented in his WWE Network miniseries, the Undertaker's protracted retirement wasn't going to plan by 2019. Attempts to have one last truly great match hadn't exactly panned out, and after 3 show of shows shockers against Bray Wyatt, Shane McMahon, and Roman Reigns, following the end of his undefeated WrestleMania streak, a fun squash victory over John Cena didn't do much to reset the balance. Before anything could be set up for an appearance at this specific event, Undertaker, advertising himself as Mark Calloway for the first time in what felt like forever, signed on to do the AEW adjacent StarCast 2 event in May, in what proved to be a battle of wills lost by the dead man against his long-standing boss. He quickly withdrew from the event. In the meantime, no WrestleMania spot was forthcoming. Vince McMahon was in the ambulance that took Undertaker to hospital following his concussion against Brock Lesnar in 2014, missing half the card in the process. In 2019, in an act of penance and or making nice, Undertaker ultimately missed the entire thing. Number 7, Hulk Hogan's first WrestleMania appearance following his controversial return. Hulk Hogan tarnished his legacy forever with the racist remarks he made back in 2007 that came to light in 2015. WWE decided there was no place for him anywhere near the branding, removing him from all typical ambassadorial spots, whilst making the decision to take him out of the Hall of Fame. This was the right call, but in a rarity for WWE, also smart from an optics perspective. Sadly, only the latter proved to be of any pressing concern. Hogan was set to worm his way back in, but WWE effectively soft-launched his return. The Omni Gross Crown Jewel 2018 was the perfect place to hide an official comeback promo for the Hulkster, as was, for entirely different reasons, the January 7th, 2019 edition of Raw following the passing of Mean Gene Okerlund. Appearing unannounced at the start of WrestleMania 35, this was yet another way to try and sneak him back onto shows. The surprise nature of his arrival drew a Pavlovian pop, before the boo started creeping through. It was the first show of shows back, but the last one where this strategy worked. He was jeered during his promoted performances at WrestleMania 37 2 years later. Number 6, Paul Heyman's double shoot. Due to the aforementioned divisiveness of Hulk Hogan, Paul Heyman generated a thunderous pop when he trampled all over the Hulkster's closing salvo to get to business at hand. Per multiple sources, this wasn't something Hogan was aware of. He was early into his posing routine alongside Alexa Bliss when Heyman stormed through the middle of Real American to make a surprising announcement that proved to be his second shoot in a matter of seconds. Then, the advocate of Universal Champion Brock Lesnar, Heyman revealed that the Beast wanted to get his title match over so he could get himself away for the night. Getting on a jet to Las Vegas where my client is ultimately appreciated was a reference to the UFC. Seeing the news that Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey were headlining as a mark of disrespect. The latter was just bluster for heel shtick, but the rest was for real. Lesnar was long gone by the time the women hit the ring and was still teasing an MMA return at the time before he eventually gave up the ghost. Number 5. The Big Light. There's typically no expense spared on the WrestleMania production. From the mammoth stages and enormous screens, to the pillars and roof setup that protects the performers from rain in open-air stadiums, and even the unique in-out system devised to save some of the winners and losers making the long walks back up the huge ramps. They also require a lot of lights, and as the sun went down in New Jersey, an overcorrection on WWE's part sent corneas running for cover. Bright lights went shooting into the eyes of thousands midway through the action, obscuring ring and screen alike for a short while before various "we can't see" chants and the like drove them to switch things up. Now, there were positives to spring up from the ostensible setback. For one, WWE made it public that they'd address the concerns of anybody impacted, including offering free tickets to major shows over the next several months as a make good. Also, the beams were on full for Randy Orton versus AJ Styles, meaning that thousands of people were saved the trouble of trying to engage with a Randy Orton match. I'm just kidding, Viper. Number 4. The Big Lie. WWE aren't strangers to telling little white lies in their promotional methods, and they're not afraid of delivering absolutely massive whoppers either. That just about sums up the branding of WrestleMania 35. All New York City skylines and Statue of Liberty crowns. The show was presented from the mammoth MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey for the second time in its history. But yet again, the host destination was brushed aside for the easier to market city that never sleeps. The 2019 Show of Shows didn't even mark the first time the company had leaned in on New Jersey's neighbor to the north, having done exactly that during the marketing of WrestleMania 29 in 2013. At least then the company had the decency to add NYNJ to the logo, but there was nothing half as dignified second time around. It wouldn't be the only hugely divisive element attached to the event's locale after the dust settled. Number 3. The Show of Shows. More on the preposterous runtime of the 2019 Show of Shows elsewhere on this list, but the consequences of Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair's headline match starting on the day after the show date itself resulted in chaotic post-show scenes as the 68,000 plus people attempted to clear out. As rain fell at quite the rate over New Jersey, thousands and thousands of people were as good as stranded. The last train was departing the MetLife Stadium station before Becky Lynch's pyro had even finished going off, creating untenable Uber queues and a growing sense of unease for countless out-of-towners that didn't know where they were going or how on earth to get there. Going beyond usual volume of stadium traffic, the circumstances bordered dangerously close to breaking down, not least because people's phone batteries were as drained as their energy levels. Even a good 7+ hour wrestling show is 7+ hours. As usual, the market leader pled ignorance and or innocence, but the other relevant parties were quick to push back. Number 2. New Jersey Transit blamed WWE for it. WrestleMania 35 was still taking place when the clock struck 12 to signify the start of the next day. It cannot be understated how integral this was to the post-show chaos that thousands of fans were trapped in when they left MetLife Stadium. Having taken much of the blame overnight for it, New Jersey Transit were boldly defiant in their response. They said, the primary factor contributing to the post-event delays was the WWE's decision to extend the event to 12:30 a.m., which had significant operational impacts on the evening. New Jersey Transit was not informed of this decision until late last night. The decision to extend this event resulted in our inability to operate some of those trains due to federal requirements limiting train crew hours. Last-minute adjustments such as holding the final trains of the night and adding several additional trips between Secaucus and Penn Station, New York by utilizing crews and trains from throughout the system were made. Already pushed to the brink, they did what they could in unfavorable circumstances. That sounds kind of familiar, to be honest. Number 1. The last long one. The WrestleMania 35 premium live event goes 5 hours, 90 minutes and 37 seconds on the WWE Network/Peacock app. The pre-show, should you wish to subject yourself to that aforementioned Hardy Boys abomination, goes 1 hour, 57 minutes and 34 seconds. That's over 7 hours of wrestling. But you can at least do all all that from the comfort of your own home, but would you? After 4 years, well, probably not. There's enough new and first-run wrestling to watch at any given that it's hard enough to make time to trawl through the archives, but very few experiences that last around the length of an average working day are that appealing anyway. And again, this is all based on watching in an environment in which you're comfortable. After 7+ hours in MetLife Stadium seats, fans didn't have the energy for the second half of the entire card, let alone the last few minutes of a babyface triumph in the main event. It took the pandemic to force WWE's hand, but the following years have been substantially better for it. Now thankfully confined to history, the 32 to 35 show should forever serve as reminders of the benefit of restraint. Do not let it happen again. And that's our list. Know of any other fascinating WWE facts about WrestleMania 35 that we've missed? Well, let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you are down there. Also, if you're into this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Cheers for checking out this closer look at the 35th show of shows today. Hopefully we'll see you again very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!